Ku Klux Klan members were beaten by protesters at their own rally. Was this justified? I'll give you my opinion after this message.
All opinions are probably biased. Do not assume any statements are correct without doing your own research and coming to your own conclusion. In the event that the statements are incorrect, contact the creator and refrain from being an ass. All videos are created in good faith. I hope this reminds you of the disclaimers for prescriptions.
Hi everybody, I'm Cryberry, and welcome to In My Humble Opinion. Today we're going to talk about the recent KKK beating. Although the various Ku Klux Klans are not remotely as powerful as they once were, they are still hate groups which embrace racism. Because of this, I hate to defend them, but in this case, I'd be ignoring my principles if I didn't. You'll understand soon enough. To explain what happened, let's read the article, Violence is Not Acceptable. Police Hunt for Man in Anaheim KKK Stabbings. I chose this article because I have no reason to believe that The Guardian has any reason to be biased towards the KKK. The article writes, according to police, 20 to 30 protesters were waiting for a planned Klan rally to take place when 6 KKK members, reportedly identified because of the Confederate flag patches on their shirts, arrived in an SUV. The crowd descended on them. In the preceding melee, 2 people were stomped on the ground and 3 stabbed, one of whom was hospitalized and in critical conditions, police said. At one point, someone was stabbed with the end of a flagpole. If you watch the video, you can actually see the KKK members being stormed by the protesters. It seems to me like the protesters were not in fear for their lives, but rather just wanted to silence the KKK by force. Continuing with the article, 12 people were arrested, including 5 KKK members, but according to police, the latter 5 were released after video evidence showed that they were acting in self-defense. The totality of evidence, including videos, still pictures, and interviews, paints a pretty clear picture as to who the aggressors were, Anaheim Police Sergeant Darren Watt told the Los Angeles Times. It does appear to be self-defense and defense of another. I actually find the actions of the protesters to be entirely unacceptable. Unless there is a direct threat to their lives, where they are actually in fear for their lives, there should not have been any violence at all. And maybe we're all wrong. Maybe the KKK did actually instigate the violence, but we have no evidence of that. So I'm forced to assume that the protesters did charge at the KKK members like it seems in the video. So when it comes down to it, do I think these KKK members are probably scumbags? Yeah, they most likely subscribe to the racist ideologies of the KKK. However, do they deserve to be beaten down in the streets for showing up to a rally? No. They have a right to hold their racist rallies, even if we don't like it. I'd like to think that most people would agree with me since my opinion is based on upholding the law. However, after visiting a liberal page, I find that some people don't agree with me. So let's look at some comments that are at odds with my opinion. This is a good example. If they're that passionate about their cause, they should be willing to fight for it. Tolerating intolerance is cowardice. Passively allowing this to happen is what allows this kind of shit to flourish. In principle, I actually agree with this sentiment. We should be protesting them at every opportunity given. We should be making sure that they hear our voices against them. However, in this instant, we're talking about beating them when they didn't do anything to deserve it, and that's not okay. Since this person seems to be okay with beating them in this situation, should we also wait for any other rallies and beat them up on those occasions as well? Should we just try to make sure that they're beaten anytime they publicly show themselves? That's really not acceptable for modern society. Here's another example that caught my eye. The KKK has committed some pretty heinous crimes. People who want to stand by that kind of group need to accept the consequences of their actions. If someone was advocating that women deserve to be raped, I wouldn't feel bad if a bunch of women kicked them in the balls. Nazi supporters in Europe have to deal with the same kind of consequences. The KKK has killed black people, though. They have a history of terrorizing black people. Are the rights of the KKK to spew hate speech more important than the rights of black people to feel safe in their own neighborhoods? My simple answer to this is yes. You don't have a right to feel safe, however you do have a right to be in public and not be beaten. Just because this organization has a very dark past where they committed heinous crimes in the past, doesn't mean that these individual members have committed any crimes, and they shouldn't have to suffer through vigilante justice because of guilt by association. Here's yet another example of this. These people support a terrorist organization. They can deal with the consequences. When terrorists are brown people overseas, we kill them. They should be killed, because they are a threat to other people. If the KKK gained the kind of strength it used to, it would do the same shit it used to.
Why should we turn a blind eye to terrorist organizations just because they are white and homegrown? Tolerating intolerance is cowardice. It's taking the side of the oppressor and ignoring the people who are being made to suffer. What this commenter doesn't realize is that the current KKK is split into many local groups that don't necessarily have any connection to the previous violent KKK groups. Yes, they are hate groups, but that does not necessarily mean that they are a terrorist group. These KKK members belong to the loyal white knights of the Ku Klux Klan. After specifically searching for any violent ties, I haven't been able to find any crimes associated with this group, so that leads me to assume that they're mostly benign. Even if it did show that they were an active terrorist organization, they are still American citizens. They have a right to a fair trial, and I would hope that just belonging to a terrorist organization doesn't merit the death penalty. This person is literally calling for the death of a group of people because of their association rather than any violent crimes committed. In my opinion, that's just as wrong as the KKK would be if they were intimidating and killing people. This is my final example. They are terrorists actively recruiting other terrorists. We have a right to stop them. It's not about vengeance. It's about sending a message that we will not tolerate the rise of fascism on our soil. You're correct. You have a right to try to stop them by protesting them. You have a right to try to stop them by spreading an anti-KKK message. However, you do not have a right to stop them with force like in this situation. This is not a praiseworthy attempt to right a wrong in this world. This is just battery. If it does turn out that the KKK instigated this fight, then I have no sympathy for them and they should be charged with battery. However, with the current information we have, my opinion stands. Keep in mind that if this was a situation with any other group, I would still be defending them. I don't care if it was the Black Panthers, the neo-Nazis, the radical animal rights groups, or even Islamic terrorist groups. Unless you are using self-defense, violence is not justified. So if you have any comments, please leave them below and I'll try to get back to you. And until next time, good night and good luck.